They came at night, quietly, but their plan was loud enough to shake a whole nation. France wanted him gone. Not dead. Worse, they wanted to take him. It started with a strange plane. Not a warplane. Not a passenger plane. Just a small, quiet jet that landed in the dark. No lights, no noise, no permission. It touched down near a military zone outside Ouagadougou. No one knew where it came from. But a few brave soldiers thought, this doesn't feel right. They called Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The sun had just gone down, and the city of Ouagadougou was quiet. It was the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Something felt wrong. At a small military post just outside the capital, a young soldier named Mamadou sat by the radio. He wasn't expecting much. Just the usual check-ins from patrol teams. Maybe the sound of music from a nearby village. But tonight, the radio was silent. Too silent. Suddenly, a voice came through. Cracked. Nervous. Airfield Bravo. We have eyes on an unknown aircraft. Repeat. Unknown aircraft. No flight record. No clearance. Mamadou sat up. That wasn't normal. He turned the dials, checked the logs. No planes were supposed to land at that hour. Not military. Not civilian. Nothing. He grabbed the field phone. He didn't call a general. He didn't call an office. He called Captain Ibrahim Traoré directly. It was almost midnight when the phone rang inside the command room. Captain Traoré, still in his uniform, stood beside the table, reviewing reports from the northern border. He picked up. Yes. Mamadou's voice was tight. Sir, a private jet landed near the restricted military zone. No ID. No lights. No communication with the tower. There are foreign men moving near the runway. No one knows who they are. There was a pause. Not because Traoré was afraid, but because he understood. He had seen this before. Not in Burkina Faso, but in other countries. In other African lands where leaders disappeared. Where diplomatic visits turned into kidnappings. Where quiet planes carried away the voices of freedom. He put the phone down slowly and turned to his men. Get the trucks ready. Lock down the airfield. And tell the guards not to blink tonight. As the trucks rolled into the airstrip, Traoré's convoy moved without sirens. No flashing lights. Just engines rumbling over the dusty road. He didn't want panic. He didn't want a fight. But he was ready for one. He arrived at the airfield and found it exactly as the young soldier said. One small jet, parked far from the control tower. 3 black cars with tinted windows. No flags. No license plates. 6 men stood outside. Suits. Sunglasses, even at night. 2 of them were speaking French. Not the way locals speak it, not the warm, broken French of West Africa, but the cold, clipped tongue of intelligence agents. Traoré's men surrounded the area silently. Trained. Calm. Focused. He walked up to the men himself. Bonsoir. Who gave you permission to land? He asked. One man stepped forward, fake smile on his lips. We're here for diplomatic reasons. We're meeting with embassy staff tomorrow morning. Traoré looked at him for a moment. Then why come in the dark? Why no clearance? The man didn't answer. Traoré looked past them. He noticed the jet's door was open. He noticed movement inside. He signaled with 2 fingers behind his back. Instantly, 2 soldiers moved in toward the plane. Inside the jet, they found something strange. Not weapons. Not cash. They found a set of restraints. Ropes. A black hood. A medical injection kit with a French label. It contained a sedative strong enough to knock out a grown man in seconds. It was not for defense. It was not for medicine. It was for a kidnapping. Outside, the mood changed. The men in suits stopped pretending. One of them muttered in French, "It's too late." Traoré stepped forward. His voice was calm, but strong. This is Burkina Faso. You don't come in the night and take our leaders anymore. Not me. Not anyone. His soldiers closed in. The foreign agents were surrounded. Their phones were taken. The plane was locked. The airport, sealed. Traoré didn't yell. He didn't need to. His presence spoke louder than bullets. Later that night, Traoré stood with his soldiers under the stars. He said something simple, but heavy. This is not just about me. It's about the message they wanted to send. If you stand up, we will come for you. But we send a message too. If you come for one of us, you face all of us. The next morning, the jet was forced to leave without its mission. The agents were escorted out of the country, and the people woke up to the truth. France had tried to take their leader in the dark, but they failed. Because that night, the people were awake. And so was Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The air was still. Not even the wind moved. On the runway stood 6 men in dark suits, their backs straight, hands folded, eyes cold. Across from them stood Captain Ibrahim Traoré, calm, steady, unshaken. It was a quiet war now. No guns were raised. No fists thrown. But every breath, every stare, was heavy with tension. These men didn't come with flags. They didn't wear military uniforms. But everyone knew who they were. French agents. They came from the same system that had ruled Africa in silence for years. They came to take one man, but in truth, they came to take control. Traoré looked them in the eye. He didn't blink. He was dressed in his simple uniform. No gold, no medals, just dust and courage. He asked again, "Who gave you permission to land?" The tallest man stepped forward. He had slicked hair, clean shoes, and a fake smile. "We're here on diplomatic orders. A meeting with officials. Nothing more." Traoré took a slow step forward. His voice was soft but sharp. "Then why didn't you go to the embassy? Why no flight log? Why no notice to our air traffic?" No answer. He looked around. The jet was still idling, engines warm, door open. Like it was ready to leave. Quickly. Traoré turned to his right-hand soldier and whispered, "What did you find inside?" The soldier responded quietly. Restraints, tranquilizers, ropes, and masks. They weren't coming to talk. They were coming to take. Traoré nodded once. Then turned back to the men in suits. Now the tone changed. The smiles faded. The men adjusted their watches, shifted their weight, looked at each other. One of them whispered something in French. "Il sait." He knows. Traoré stepped closer. "You came to kidnap me. You thought I'd be scared. That I'd run. That I'd hide." He pointed to the trees, to the rooftops, to the shadows. "But look around. I'm not alone. Burkina Faso is not sleeping anymore." Suddenly, there was a click. One of the French agents touched something at his belt. A small black device. Possibly a beacon. A call for backup. An emergency signal. Traoré's soldiers reacted fast. In 1 second, they surrounded the men. Guns raised. Triggers ready. But Traoré lifted his hand. "No. Let them speak first." One of the agents finally broke the silence. "Captain, you're becoming dangerous. You're making too many enemies. You've kicked out our soldiers. You're taking your country in the wrong direction." Traoré raised an eyebrow. The wrong direction for who? The agent didn't answer. He didn't have to. Everyone already knew the truth. France didn't like how Traoré had ended their influence in Burkina Faso. Didn't like how he had kicked out their troops, refused their money, and started building alliances with other powers, including some who weren't friendly to the West. He had refused to be a puppet. And now they came to remove him, like they had done to others before him. But this time, it didn't work. Traoré took one more step. His voice was low now. Personal. "You came here thinking I'm just a soldier. A man you can scare. But I'm not just a man anymore. I carry the voice of millions who are tired. Tired of being ruled from the shadows." He looked the lead agent directly in the eye. "You should have come in daylight, if your mission was clean." Then came the final blow. Traoré motioned to his men. Search the jet again. Every inch. Minutes later, they returned, holding a black folder. Inside, printed documents, maps, lists of military posts, a schedule with Traoré's recent movements, and one chilling phrase circled in red ink. Extraction route, Phase 3, nighttime lift. It was proof. Clear. Direct. No more lies. Traoré held up the folder for the cameras, for his soldiers, for the world. This is the face of foreign democracy. They come with smiles, but carry hoods. He turned to the agents. You won't be harmed. Not today. We are not like you. But as the sun began to rise behind him, he said one last thing. Tell your leaders, Africa is not your playground anymore. Not your minefield. Not your little farm. We are awake. And we are ready. The agents were escorted out. The plane, forced to leave. No shots fired. No blood spilled. But something bigger had happened. For the first time in a long time, Africa said no, and meant it. Because Ibrahim Traoré stood firm. Not for power. Not for fame. But for something greater. Freedom. The plane was gone. The French agents had been forced to leave, quietly, humiliated. No arrest, no handcuffs. But everyone watching knew what had really happened. They had lost. And Burkina Faso had won, without even firing a single bullet. The sun rose slowly over Ouagadougou. Warm light hit the rooftops, and the city came alive again. But this morning felt different. People whispered in markets. Taxi drivers played radio clips over and over again. Soldiers stood taller at their posts. Everyone had heard the same thing. They tried to take him. In the heart of the capital, a press conference was called. Cameras flashed. Microphones filled the podium. Captain Ibrahim Traoré walked up, alone. No bodyguards. No generals. No politicians. Just the man they tried to steal in the dark. He stood in front of the microphones and took a deep breath. Last night, he began, a foreign aircraft landed on our soil without permission. Their mission was not diplomacy. It was silence. They wanted to take me away. Gasps filled the room. Some already knew. Others had only heard rumors. But now it was official. France had tried to kidnap the leader of a sovereign African country. He held up a folder, black, worn, but clear. Inside this, he said, were plans, times, maps, instructions to extract me by force. This was not an accident. This was a message. He paused. But I have a message too. The room fell silent. The country held its breath. Africa is no longer yours to control. We will not be ruled from Paris, or Washington, or anywhere else. We will choose our own path, even if it's hard, even if we bleed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't wave a fist. But his words hit harder than any gunshot. Across the continent, people watched. In Mali, they cheered. In Niger, they nodded. In Congo, Kenya, and South Africa, they listened closely. Because they knew, Traoré didn't just speak for Burkina Faso. He spoke for every African nation that had ever been threatened, manipulated, or used. Later that day, young people filled the streets, waving flags, singing songs, shouting his name. Not because he was a king. Not because he was perfect. But because he did something most leaders wouldn't dare. He stood up to power, and didn't kneel. In private rooms around the world,